Next up, I kind of have to read because, pardon me, it's kind of wonderful. By the way, are you here, Gadi, Ben Yehuda? Cool, just making sure. I love your bio. I have to read this. We said 140 characters, and I'm not usually reading them, but this is awesome. Totally pound Gen X. Storytelling, self-effacing, scavenging, can't even read it, juxtaposing, preconsciously postmodern, hyper-articulate, hopped up on nostalgia. That's all I have to say.
That's great. That's all I had to say, too. Okay. Hello. So actually, it's appropriate that I'm the penultimate speaker because I'm like Gen X. We're like, you know, whatever. We know you're here just for the last people. So Gen X and the Millennials, so I don't like calling Gen Y, are different. And deconstruction is going to show us how. We actually saw deconstruction a moment ago because deconstruction, what it does is it takes these binaries, these things that we think are opposing of one another, and it kind of flips them one against another. And so when you look at it in generations, right, we want to be different than our parents, but not exactly the same as our grandparents. So what we find is that history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. So you can see here, like in style of jeans, right? So in the 60s, it was, you know, kind of like close, everything was straight lines. And then in the 70s, you're like, nah, fuck that. We're going to go bell bottoms. And then in the 80s, they're like, no. And then you get tapers. And then in the 90s, you get crisscross. Then what's interesting, though, is so this shows that there's more than one binary. So you get something like masculinity, right? And, you know, if you think that Thich Nhat Hanh is, you know, your idea of a man, then, you know, what's exactly the opposite of that? Maybe it's, you know, Jeff Bridges from Iron Man or Ryan Gosling. So everyone, real quick, figure out what generation you're in so you can figure out how to be mad at me. I'm pretty solidly Gen X, like Ani DeFranco and Lauryn Hill. I personally think Dennis Leary and Willem Dafoe are completely interchangeable. If you can memorize this slide, you can just go back and drink because this is exactly what I'm going to talk about for the next however much longer I have. And we're going to talk about it in relation to Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man, each of whose movies came out at the perfect time for their generations, 1978, 1989, and then the Millennials in 2001. So, what is it? Batman, I'm sorry, I'm so excited about Gen X. Superman is transparent. Batman is all about opacity and surface. Superman is inherent, right? He was born this way, just like the baby boomers, right? They were born awesome. Batman is not awesome in any way. He just has an awesome car. And Spider-Man was not born awesome, but he still had that awesomeness inside of him. Superman, just like the baby boomers, stands athwart history, right? They are amazing, spectacular, wonderful. Batman is like, he knows he missed it, right? Gotham is in a decline. He's just crying about his parents all the time. And Peter Parker's like always got his eye on the prize. To work this one backwards, Peter Parker's really about responsibility, right? He's the only one of these guys really even has a job. I mean, Superman has a job, but I mean, he never does it. It's always Lois Lane who's turning in the articles. He's just like tagging along, right? And Batman is all about vengeance. He just wants to kick your teeth in. Batman also stands out. He's the only one where his character, Bruce Wayne, has nothing to do with Batman. They're completely opposed. Clark Kent in Superman 2 says, Clark Kent is who I am, Superman is what I do. And Peter Parker works for Spider-Man, right? He just takes his picture. In the same way, Spider-Man is collaborative. Like, he works with anybody. He'll even work with a guy who tries to kill him, all right? Whereas Superman is like, no, I'm going to run off to the Fortress of Solitude to fight General Zod. And Batman, he doesn't care. He knows he's going to get bloodied. And that's why he starts out being defeated. Batman is like, you know what? It's going to hell, so I'm just going to sit this one out. Whatever. Superman is always looking for the next big thing, and it's a big thing. And Spider-Man, just like the Millennials, he's really savvy. Like, he knows what's going to happen. He's like, yeah, let's just make a joke about it. Spider-Man is also really intense, right? You know, the last movie, the big thing, like, it's all about fighting himself and finding his better... Anyway, Batman, he wants to kick your teeth in, puncture your lung, break your nose. He really wants to do it. So how does this relate to how we actually rule the world? Here are Gen X politicians. We got Paul Ryan, who's like, yeah, poverty, right? You get Ben Quayle, and that's Christy Noemi, who is voted the most attractive House member, right? This is all that Gen X spot. In economics, we're vacant, right? We want our music for free. We want indie labels. We know we're the smallest generation, so we were never worth marketing to. Boomers were bigger. Why? Millennials were bigger. No, just forget it. Forget it. And we turn our back on them, too. Gen X and culture. Here's the book Douglas Coupland wrote, and then there's the big millennial study on abort, retry, ignore, fail. That's pretty much us. And we just want to tell stories. Like, it doesn't have to go anywhere. In fact, it's really better if it doesn't. Here are millennials in politics. That's Aaron Schock, and there are his abs, right? And there's Crystal Ball. the Gen Yers are used to this kind of, they're going to be out there. And if it gets in their way, as it did with the crystal ball, hey, that's whatever it is. In economics, they're Occupy Wall Street, that's totally their thing. They're really seizing control because they're used to figuring out, hey, you know what, I can make a difference. That's the thing about the millennials. They're so happy, shiny people. And they even have these books that were written by boomers, their parents, to reinforce this idea that they're shiny, happy people. And we in Gen X, we're looking at you guys, we're looking at the future, and we're saying, whatever.